Hey, what is up YouTube? This is Merman Master coming at you guys from the Team Time Riders YouTube channel, and I am here today with my updated Spellbook deck for the June 2020 format. I've been experimenting a little bit with this deck thanks to the quarantine, and I've been testing out a lot of different strategies, and I wanted to bring this to you guys to just give an update on how the testing is going so far. Do keep in mind, guys, this is a work in progress. I hope to try and figure out some more different plays that I can make in the deck, and of course, I'm also working on a max power version of this deck for our tournament, judged by the Spellbook of Judgment there in the back. So guys, without further ado, let's get into this profile and I'll show you what I'm running for the new format. As I said, guys, do keep in mind, many of these choices are subject to change due to the nature of the format, but I hope you'll enjoy it nonetheless. So, starting things out, since this is a Spellbook deck, wouldn't be complete without 3 copies of Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, one of your main searchers in the deck, and great for grabbing whatever you need. Can also be grabbed himself with Spellbook of Secrets, a very, very big consistency booster. Next card we have in the deck is 3 Temperance of Prophecy, because I'm running the World build. I really do like the card, even though it can occasionally brick. But Temperance of Prophecy is great for grabbing your high-level Spellbook monsters out of your deck. 2 copies of High Priestess. Reveal 3 spellbooks in your hand, special summon her on board, and then she can banish a spellbook in your graveyard to pop a card your opponent controls. Very, very strong, and not even hard once per turn either. World of Prophecy, again, probably your biggest boss monster in this deck. Definitely could be better. However, when it comes to the board, you can add any 2 spellbook monsters back to your, or spellbook spell cards back to your hand, and then you can reveal 4 spellbook spell cards with different names from your hand and destroy all cards that that are on the field. So very, very strong card. One other thing that I would mention is that most of the times I'm not going to really activate that effect. However, I really do love the fact that World of Prophecy allows you to add back 2 spellbook spell cards to your hand. Really, really makes it worth running in lots of different ways. And finally, a copy of Yugioh the Spiritualist for prevention of special summons and popping of special summons monsters to close out the monsters. Moving on to our spell cards. This is where your consistency lives, guys. We have 3 copies of Spellbook of Secrets, allowing you to add any spellbook card from your deck to your hand, including the Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. Very, very awesome card, and probably the best consistency booster in your entire deck. Next, speaking of consistency, 3 copies of Spellbook of Knowledge. Also amazing card. Ditch a Spellbook spell card from your hand or a field, and then a spellcaster monster that you control. Send it to the graveyard and draw 2 cards. Great to if you do search secrets into Spellbook Magician searches knowledge tributes magician, draw 2 cards. Very, very strong play. Probably your strongest spellbook in the deck is 3 copies of Spellbook of Fate. Actually came out at the same time in Abyss Rising that Tiramisu came out. One of the first 2 non-targeting removal cards in the game up to that point, and it was extremely powerful back in the day, primarily because it could get rid of things that had protection from targeting. Very, very strong card as well. Has 3 different effects, but you're mostly going to use its effect to banish a card on the field. 2 copies of Spellbook of the Master allows you to target any normal spellbook spell card in your graveyard by revealing a spellbook in your hand and controlling a spellcaster monster. So great for, if you have that card, you can search the Master and search some other spellbook out of your deck. This is actually awesome for using together with your with some of your other spellbook cards to get extra stuff in the graveyard for Fate. 2 copies of Spellbook of Eternity allows you to fetch any spellbook spell card back from your banish zone to your hand. So a very, very good searching and consistency boosting spell card. Do note that you are able to banish Eternity off of your Spellbook spell cards effects, but absolutely in no circumstances should you do that, because Spellbook of Eternity, once it's banished, you can't really get it back, because Eternity cannot fetch another Eternity, unfortunately. So once your Spellbook of Eternity gets banished, you lose a lot of consistency in the deck, and so it's advisable to just keep recycling them and shuffling them back in. Next cards we've got in this deck, 3 copies of Spellbook Library of the Crescent. Great first turn card. Only locks you into spellbooks. However, a very, very strong spellbook card for or allowing you to reveal any 3 spellbook spell cards in your hand, and then your opponent randomly adds one of them to your hand. However, you must control no spellbooks in the graveyard in order to activate this effect. I mostly have it in here as a spellbook name as well, because you can discard it off of other cards in your deck, such as your spellbook of the knowledge, which makes it more consistent than it would otherwise be. 2 Grand Spellbook Tower, excuse me, basically allows you to shuffle back or send a spellbook spell card from your from your graveyard to the bottom of the deck, and then draw an extra card during the standby phase. And then if this card is popped, you can special summon a spellcaster monster equal to the number of spellbook spell cards in your graveyard, and of course that would include this card, straight to the field. So very, very strong. You don't really activate the second effect much, but the first effect is good for shuffling things back and getting some extra plays. Spellbook of Wisdom, kind of your Forbidden Lance for spell and trap cards. Very, very strong card as well. And having one of these in your hand when you're going in for a High Priestess of Prophecy play definitely helps you out from getting your monster popped or someone springing a nasty spell or trap on you. 1 copy of Spellbook of Power, great for combining together, of course, with that Wisdom for running over your opponent's monsters, and makes the monster gain 1,000 attack, and if it destroys something by battle, you can add any Spellbook spell card from your deck to your hand, which really, really makes this card a good play to do. And OTK play that you can make is using Spellbook of Power and then copying its effect with Spellbook of Masters, which means that basically after that, if you attack into the monster, you gain 2,000 attack, and then you can search 2 Spellbook spell cards from your deck to your hand at the end. Next copy we have in here is 1 Spellbook of Life. Reveal a spellbook in hand while you control a spellcaster monster. Same activation effect as Life. And then you can banish a spellcaster monster from your graveyard to special summon another spellcaster monster to the field. So great for getting back your world. Great for getting back your High Priestess and stuff like that, and also helps to trigger World's effect, which makes it very good. Final spell card that we have in the deck, and of course this is the one that I'm currently testing out right now, is Secret Village of the Spellcasters. Now, the reason I'm kind of testing this out and the reason that I'm kind of iffy on this card, guys, is because sometimes you don't have spellcaster type monsters on your board, but this is really great, especially in the first part of the game, for locking down your opponent and preventing them from summoning whatever kinds of monsters or spell cards that they may have. You know, Lightning Storm is a very, very popular card right now, and if you've got a whole bunch of set fates and other things that you really, really need in this deck, and you want to trigger them at the correct point in time, Secret Village of the Spellcasters is of paramount importance to prevent your opponent from activating those cards until you have the right kind of thing. So yeah, like, it does lend to some inconsistent hands on occasion. However, I do feel that, at least in current testing, the benefits outweigh the drawbacks here. So that's why it's in here at 3, just so that I can see it. Now, moving on to the traps, we're finishing things off with 3 copies of Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. And this card is, I got the idea from AZNPERSUASION 2008's video, where he basically used this card alongside of Jogan to bounce things back to your opponent's top of their deck. You'd be surprised at how useful this actually can be, because pretty much bouncing something useless back to the top of your opponent's deck ensures that they're going to draw it the next turn, and provided that they don't have, like, you know, anything good with it, or they can't really bring it out as fast, makes it a dead draw pretty much. And so can't underestimate the importance of Phoenix Wing Wind Blast in this situation. Final trap card we've got in the deck are 2 copies of Stormy Mirror Force, one of the cards that I want to protect in this deck. You do have some removal and things like that already. However, Storming Mirror Force does a lot of things. With Girsu and Ding Girsu and all those guys coming back up again, your opponent's going to be watching out for the Spellbook of Fate, and will not be prepared for the Storming Mirror Force that just bounces every single monster they control, non-targeting, non-destruction removal, back to their extra deck. So that's going to close out the profile for now. Really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, remember to drop a like to the Team Time Riders YugiTube channel. I hope to see more of you guys in the near future. And this has been the Mermail Master, and I am signing out. Catch you guys next time. Peace.